if the sequels had a show that was as groundbreaking as the story of Clone Wars, then I think I would defend the sequels.
3, 2, 1.
Let's not do that again.
Ever again.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Pop Hyped, the pop culture podcast. My name is Mason Bell, and I will be joined moving forward unless they die of some kind of pandemic-level disease, which I don't even know what that's in reference
Like
to.
cancer.
Or break their legs. I will be joined by...
I mean, honestly, if my legs were broken, I'd still be able to chill here. So, my name is Cade, and you will never know whether or not my legs are broken this entire episode. I will refuse to move them.
My name is Cody, and maybe my arms are broken.
Hey, man.
He just
Nope.
refuses to move the entire
You
podcast.
as the viewer are completely oblivious.
My name's Bryson, and the only thing broken about me is my mind.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
My name's JT. I've got a broken heart.
I didn't say what I'm broken of. I got a broken skeleton, literally. Like my entire body is just shards. I just have a quick question. Do you guys remember when Good Mythical Morning was a good thing?
God.
Was
The
there a
thing
time
is,
when it was not a good thing?
No,
when did
like-
it become bad?
No, when it got all like politicized and like super like okay, when
they make some dope songs.
their songs are good, but like I don't like their current
Rub some
like
bacon
the
on
way
it.
they
their
do
current
things.
format.
Their current format, it's weird.
No, your birth.
Yeah,
no,
I still,
bacon on
Rhett
it.
and Link are still.
They're still great guys.
absolutely
Thank you, Kate.
fantastic people. But ever since this season, when they decided to do shorter episodes throughout the day, it just felt less like a podcast and more like it had become a YouTube show.
I thought it was like a morning show. Like that.
Sorry,
that
that's
was
what
their
I
whole
meant.
thing,
I didn't
right?
mean
It was a
podcast.
morning show.
It was a morning show.
Yeah, but episode where
one-
Post Malone was on it was quality.
That was quality. Yeah, but no, they just sort of had to update to follow the YouTube algorithm, and that sadly has taken down the home that I felt with them, at least.
we should talk about
This
the
is
topic.
completely off topic. But
Should we talk about Star Wars?
Give me a second. There was a time when Good Mythical Morning was completely like my jam. I watched it every single morning for like 2 years straight, and then like I eventually just dropped out because I was like, this is no longer worth my time. But I think we should talk about the actual thing that we're going to talk about. Okay, in today's day and age of unnecessary movie sequels, it is rare to get a good one, but the most notable betrayals of source material and artistic vision goes to none other than Star Wars Episode 7 through 9. While 7 opened on a relative appeal, 8, The Last Jedi, was panned by fans yet loved by critics. Episode 9 was better than 8, yet felt confusing and utterly missing the mark on what fans wanted. The movies in general felt rushed and over-cliched. The chasm that these movies created between the Hollywood elites and regular old Joes such as ourselves made people question the ideals of modern cinema. Today on Pop Hyped, we tackle the question of, are Star Wars sequels worse or better than the prequels? Both have little no respect from the fans, but one side advances the story of the Skywalkers, while one does not, and in some cases rewrites it. Welcome to Pop Hyped, Episode 1!
Oh yeah.
This is so dope.
I'd say honestly,
Oh, am I supposed to stop?
we're
No, we can just keep that. We can
Throughout the entire podcast.
Yeah.
I'd say we're honestly arguing whether or not which one is less worse than the other. We're not really talking
You know,
about
that's fair.
which one's better.
There's one episode out of all 6 of those episodes that doesn't suck.
Oh, episode
That-
one.
Well, hold
right?
on,
Which one?
we should all say
Phantom Menace?
we should all
No,
say
it-
which one it is at the same count.
Okay.
Okay,
One,
1, 2, 3.
Episode 3.
Oh,
Okay,
what?
yeah,
Oh,
okay,
oh,
okay.
I said
I thought we were
one.
saying the name.
I said
Can you say
one.
the name this time? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Revenge of the Sith.
What is that?
3.
Freaking okay. I'm like the. This is okay. This is for all you guys who are viewing. I'm representing you, the casual Star Wars fan who has maybe a Star Wars T-shirt, has at least seen the movies a couple times. Not quite sure the names according to the numbers. That's gonna be my perspective. We have a whole array of Star Wars perspectives.
I represent the group of people who like sci-fi but still like Star Trek significantly more.
I represent me, and that's probably all you're gonna get.
I represent like the hardcore diehard fans who
He literally brought books.
brought
An entire
all,
box.
brought all of my books that were all printed before the prequels were out.
For those of you
know,
who aren't listening
when-
on visual, Bryson is holding his Star Wars book at the moment.
Oh, next to an entire box. Of them.
Yeah.
There's a box.
And I am the not hardcore casual. Wow, I am the hardcore Star Wars fan that had to buy his own books, and so the only one I've got is Darth Plagueis the Wise sitting in my drawer at home.
We
I
love
remember-
that.
Wait, didn't somebody buy that for you?
Yeah. So no, I didn't buy it.
Yeah, but you
when I
can
was-
also quote the whole high ground scene from.
That is
memory.
fair. I can
Oh,
quote.
I think
like, the
everyone can
entirety
quote
of
that high
episode
ground
3.
scene just because of TikTok. Which, by the way, is not getting banned anymore.
Frick!
I'm all
another
okay
day.
with it because they were going to take Rocket League down with it. So
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fair. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, because they worked out a deal. But I'm gonna go out and say it.
Water
Me
sacrifices.
personally, I think that that the sequels are significantly worse than the prequels.
I would strongly disagree.
But we can all agree on the superiority of the original trilogy.
oh
oh yeah,
yes.
we're not even going to talk about that.
it was
Well-
Absolutely. Well, I think that's our reference point of
Yeah.
as far as story goes, that is our reference point for what we're considering good and bad.
And-
Well, okay, no. I think 4, 5, and 6 are better movies, but I think 1, 2, and 3 had a better story.
Are you kidding me?
I don't agree with that
You
whatsoever.
don't have to agree.
Okay,
You
I
can be
think
wrong.
that the reason that that the prequels have a good story is because of the original trilogy and the fact that it explains the original trilogy and gives it so much more depth. But
100%.
I think that the prequels by themselves wouldn't be as good as the original trilogy.
I still think they're a great story
Well-
by themselves because George Lucas, when he was making them, didn't care whether or not you liked the movie. He just wanted to tell his story.
Well, that's the reason
That's true.
that people view them as bad is because he had unlimited money and he had no one to tell him no.
Unlimited?
Imagine
No, dude, the production budget. What's the
Imagine.
hold on?
It was huge.
What's the production budget for Phantom Menace? I'm looking
more
I'm
than
looking
4,
this
5, and 6 combined.
yeah.
really?
Well,
Yeah.
no. See, so
Jeez.
this is the entire thing. So 4,
Wait,
5, and
I don't
6
have
were
internet
so
access.
groundbreaking because they visually were more stunning than any other movie that was coming out at the time.
Oh, for sure.
Literally for like almost a few decades to come, there was nothing
It
that
was 115
could
million
really-
dollars.
115
115?
million.
115 million. The Return of the
115?
Jedi was 32.
All my COD Zombies fans out there.
The
115?
original was 11, and Empire Strikes Back was 18. So it was significantly more than the first movies combined.
But you also have to account for inflation. But so I think
Sure.
so
That's fair.
I'm defending the point that the reason why we see the prequels as better than the sequels is
Mhm.
because, well, I mean, they were our childhood. We grew up with them.
That's fair.
It's something that's called the baby duck syndrome. You get used to something because you spent more time in it. Like most people don't like new iOSs or new ways that things look when it first comes out, right? Like everybody had a huge debate over the Instagram look when they changed it from the Polaroid look to the new.
To the weird like
To- yeah, to the
logo
weird
that
thing
it is
that is
now.
now.
I
Logo
remember
that's, like,
that.
white
I remember in
and-
middle
So-
school,
Favorite
people like throwing like their
Yeah.
phones because of it.
Yeah, people were pissed.
Yeah.
And
Or when they added stories.
yeah, or when they added stories.
Oh my gosh,
But-
Instagram's just trying to be like Snapchat.
Dude, that was every girl for
How
like
did you
a
do
solid
that with your
was
week.
voice?
so
That
funny.
was
It was
crazy.
hilarious.
But-
you need to teach me how to do that later.
But for the original Star Wars fans, they were expecting content like what they had been given between then and when the first movie was coming out. Like
Yeah.
most of the content that had been released after Episode 6 was books that took place after the OT.
Yeah.
Those books are canon, right?
No,
Some of them.
all these are
all
now
of them.
considered legends.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, was that New Wave or was that
Attack of the Disney.
So is that
It was
was that
actually
Disney or was
Vaporwave.
that George Lucas?
It was
Future-based?
it was Disney, but this is what they were going after, which is why Disney decided to
Bryson
move
is holding his
on,
books right now.
which is why they decided to go after this because they wanted to recaptivate this audience that they lost in the prequels. People really they barely knew about the Clone Wars at all.
Mhm.
Here, this book right.
Well, because the Clone Wars was
Mentioned
it was a
one
kids
time in
movie.
episode
It was
4.
meant-
They were
Ben's-
kids.
Here's the thing.
It aired on Cartoon Network for the first
Here's the
7
thing.
seasons.
Here's the thing though. If the sequels had a show that was as groundbreaking as the story of Clone Wars, then I think I would defend the sequels.
Oh,
as
you
being
mean like
better.
Forces of Destiny?
But I think that all of us agree that okay.
I don't even know what that
It's
It
it's
doesn't
their
even-
attempt at it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, except it goes all across like pretty much all of the eras, but like
Yeah,
a lot of it was.
It's more like
some of it's
shorts.
actually
It
kind of
doesn't
dope. I'm
even
not
Yeah.
it
gonna
doesn't
lie.
even make sense in terms of like modern. Oh, how do I say this? It doesn't even make sense in terms of like how the story went. So like, wasn't the whole like what didn't George Lucas say? Obviously, I know that the sequels were made by a different company, but George Lucas said like it's like a poem, right? It follows like a same.
It rhymes.
It rhymes. So it doesn't make any sense when there's a completely different story, which you can argue that, okay, Palpatine was always woven into the idea of the Skywalker, sure. But, you know, I felt like when like the ending of episode 9, when she's like, Rey, Skywalker, and she like is all like talks to the random dude on Tatooine, I'm like, I felt like J.J. Abrams didn't tell anybody that he was making her a Palpatine. And like they had already printed the Skywalker saga like logos on like all the boxes of the movie.
You know
and
what?
he's just like, hey, you need to tie this up because we've already spent so much money on like branding, so you really need to fix this.
Yeah,
And
well,
she's
So
just
you
like,
know what the plan was
"Skywalker."
actually?
What?
They didn't know what the story was going to be up until they made episode 9. They were
Daisy
like, "Oh,
Ridley said in a podcast just the other day
And
that
didn't John Boyega say that too? He was like, yeah, they had
John
no idea what they
Boyega
were
has
doing.
his
Yeah,
own
but-
fits with Disney."
but that was
Yeah.
because of all the infighting that happened within the
I
company
think
because
Star
of
Wars
Kathleen
Battlefront
Kennedy.
too.
I mean,
I think we can all say Kathleen Kennedy is the root of all the problems that we're facing.
that's
Okay, we can put a lot of blame to her, and
I mean,
think
I
that
think
there is some blame
society, like,
to be
honestly,
there.
is the root of problems that we're
But-
facing.
Be
Like,
quiet.
I mean,
She
minus
represents
society, of course.
But
You know, we still live in one, but
but like, you know, like
no,
the
I
human
think we
pressures
could possibly
of
be missing
the mind.
the reason that Kathleen Kennedy has not been like completely fired yet for butchering it is because one, we are probably missing something, or two, she's not as bad as everyone thinks necessarily. I guess.
I think she is.
I think
though.
that's what I think too.
'Cause
But
people said that she was like.
I think there's
she
just
was-
something missing with the company that we just don't know about.
she's a fantastic businesswoman.
People said that she
That's
was
fair,
still like
yeah.
she was still like terrible even when she was like working on Jurassic Park with like Steven Spielberg. Like people
Yeah.
said she was still just bad.
But the
like,
thing
she's
is,
not good.
But
she's
Jurassic Park was amazing.
She
she's
was
still-
a production assistant. Steven Spielberg directed it. She had no creative say whatsoever. She
Oh.
like did all the
Yeah,
business
I-
stuff and he did all the creative stuff.
Oh,
she's
never
been
mind.
making the company more money off Star Wars than it has like ever before, than
Okay.
all the prequels, all the original trilogy. She's a fantastic businesswoman. She knows what to push and where to push it. She just doesn't know what to say.
Yeah, I'd say she's doing an exquisite
okay.
job at her job, but I just
Yeah.
don't want her to be doing her job.
She's infected the
Just
this entire trilogy has just been suffering from the creatives not being able to use their full creativity. Like the reason why J.J. Abrams didn't continue on and direct episode 8 is because he was sort of like, hey, I have other stuff that I can go film. I'm an A-list director. I sort of want more money to film your entire saga if you want it to be good, if you want it to follow my vision. And I'm just saying, episode 7 probably was the best out of the sequel trilogy.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
100%
that-
agree
Like
with
that was
that.
for sure.
people gave it crap for
I'd say
the whole
seven
it was just
or
a
9.
bigger. It was just a bigger Death
7 or
Star.
9 are pretty high up there.
You know,
Yeah,
it-
eight,
but-
eight.
So I can say with full absolute sincerity that 7 is just a ripoff of
Of episode 4.
I wouldn't say
Yeah,
it's
but
a
you-
ripoff.
is, like-
I'd say remake.
Well, you said though that George Lucas wanted to be like a poem.
Yeah, it
Well,
wanted
yeah,
to
but I
have
mean,
Right.
rhythm
a
and repetition.
poem doesn't relapse, and a
Disney
poem
was
doesn't
trying to be a
repeat
little
the
bit too
same
safe.
line for no reason than to
But it
repeat the same line.
rhymes, though. It rhymes.
So so I definitely think that in order to answer this question accurately, we have to, I guess, objectively go through what was good and what was bad with both of them. I think the sequels, cinematography wise, were way
beautiful.
absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the completely CGI of the prequels is far superior. Just hear me out. Practical effects are kind of overrated. Just kidding, guys.
So,
Just kidding.
I agree
mood and
wholeheartedly, I'm not
tones,
gonna lie.
what's called the whole mood and tone of the sequels really hit more close to home to the original trilogy than
It's
the prequels did, and it had that more that I guess that dark overtone that the not exactly dark, but more like sharp, more rugged. That
Yeah.
the
a lot more rugged.
what's it called?
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it wasn't as uniform because you weren't a part of the Republic. You were finding these small, insignificant people who ended up having big repercussions. That's the entire point of the original trilogy, showing that this farm boy can save the universe.
Wasn't the whole point? It's just like the whole point was like, hey, anyone can be anything as long as they try. Like that, you don't have to like. It's inspirational. Anyone can be anything as long as you try hard enough and find the right cause.
And your last name is Palpatine.
That's also
Or your
true.
last name
Yeah,
is
you have to have
Yeah.
as long as you
or
have
you
enough,
or
like,
you have the ability to like do this with your hand and suddenly things move.
you can be anything you want.
As
in
long as the universe has chosen you
in
and
direct
only you.
proportion to the amount of midichlorians in your blood.
Yeah, but
or in your soul or whatever.
no, one of the things that I found really interesting is at least talking with the people who watched the original trilogy growing up, like who were there when those movies were released. At least when I've talked to them, a lot of them have really enjoyed the sequels in comparison to the prequels because it followed more of what they were looking for. They were looking for more of Luke, Leia, and Han.
Mhm.
They were looking for those stories to be continued, and sort of anything that they could take of that was
true.
awesome.
Yeah.
Us people who grew up with the prequels, we were looking for stuff more like universe stuff, whereas they were just wanting a good story.
But are we separating casual fans from like fans? Like people that will go to
I
the
think fans
convention
are
dress
fans.
up.
I don't know.
Are we talking about like?
It's tough. I'd say like
I'm saying that I've met
I'm not
some
saying the
of
two.
both.
I'm not saying the two different groups, but I'm saying like when you specifically say that, who are you talking about?
I'm saying I've met both.
You met both.
I've met both.
I
Okay.
feel like if you're not a fan of a movie, it like if you're not like a religious fan of the movie, like if
I'm not saying it
if you
discredits
think
your
the
opinion,
movie is
but I'm
good,
saying-
if you think the movie's good, it's probably still a good movie. Like you not being a fan is not gonna make it is not gonna make it a bad
objectively
movie.
bad movie, yeah.
However, on the flip side of that, if you are not a fan of the movie and you come out of the movie and you say this is a bad movie, then there is possible discredit of your like opinion on that. Like, because if like you go into a movie, you're not really a fan, you don't know the existing lore, or you don't know like you're not actually you just kind of half watch the movie and you're like, yeah, that movie sucked. And people
Well,
are gonna
because
be like,
then
yeah,
you're
well,
making an informed opinion.
yeah,
right?
exactly. People are
Yeah.
gonna be like, yeah, okay, buddy. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I mean, objectively, like I've talked to people who Episode 8 was the first movie that they had seen.
Seriously.
Seriously.
I'm not
And-
gonna,
Ew.
that's a bad place to start. But
The thing is,
in
they
relation to the rest
enjoyed
of the movie. Okay, yes. Okay, but I think the main complaint with episode 8 was that overall was that it just didn't it didn't make any sense in the universe.
the
It was
puzzle-
if
yeah.
it was a standalone movie, sure, it's fine. Visual effects, beautiful. It was funny at moments when Luke does like the whole like force hologram thing and like wipes it off.
It
and, like,
wipes off his shoulder. Yeah.
It's so funny. But I mean, like in terms of, I think the reason that people were upset about it was because it just like rewrote a ton of history.
Yeah, no, it was almost like a puzzle piece that they just sort of hammered into place.
It was
didn't
like
fit
they were
there.
trying to they were
Yeah.
trying to shove a square into a circle hole.
Here.
Whatever that analogy is, a circle into a
Square peg
hole.
into a circle hole.
I
That's
have
what
a
it
good,
is.
I have a good question because we talked a lot about it, how it doesn't really fit with the it doesn't really flow. It's kind of choppy. Even though like Cody said, the mood and tone is pretty consistent with the original trilogy, and obviously the cinematography is incredible.
Mhm.
Here's my question that I was thinking on the way here. The romantic story arc, which one?
Both
is-
of them sucked.
I know.
balls.
Star
I
Wars
know.
has never gotten love or
I don't
ice.
think
Hey,
I don't.
balls.
So, I
That's
mean,
something
Solo
Star
and
Wars and I
Princess
have
Leia.
in common.
So
Yeah, but then you find out that they like, hate each other, and I'm like, what the
so
frick?
here's you have
They don't
and
hate
let's-
each other.
and-
Just
and
he
I'll-
felt bad.
and I'll outline it even more clearly too. So we have in the prequels we have Anakin and Padme. Whatever you can call it a love story arc. I wouldn't
You
even
can-
call
Isn't
it
she like
that.
12 years older than him?
No,
it's
they're actually only
like
5
7.
years
And then-
apart.
5 or 7.
And then
They're only 5 years apart.
and then in the sequels,
She's
excuse
like
me,
15.
You have 2
14.
love story arcs. You actually have kind of like 3. You have Finn and Rey, which you kind of think is supposed to happen.
But never does, and it's
And
actually
you have
Rey
Finn and Rose question mark. I don't like it was just kind of like well, I don't know how to
They
classify.
seemed like good friends at the end of
I,
night.
yeah, I don't know how to
Yeah.
classify. I don't know how
It
to
was more
classify.
like she was the girl who's pandering after him, and he was just like, okay, buddy.
Wait,
Yeah.
Isn't there a bunch of like fan fictions
And then
about
you
them both,
have-
like being
and
yeah.
none
Let's
of that.
not get into that.
And then you have on the third
Finn and
side,
Poe.
you have
Pretty much, actually.
you have
bromance is
Ray.
real.
You have Ray and Kylo Ren,
Kylo.
which it's
Felt
just
no one saw coming.
Which is just-
Halo.
a prime example
yeah.
of a toxic proximity relationship.
Yeah.
Not to mention Finn and like that one like chick at the end of like 9 that they find on the planet that was also like
Yeah.
a
They,
stormtrooper.
hold on, they
I
kind of
agree
alluded
wholeheartedly.
to like them being
yeah.
like sister or brother and sister, with Lando,
that
especially.
kind of makes it worse. I'm
I know,
not gonna lie.
I know.
But that
Well,
would
okay,
be
That's
that
like
would
that's
be
like
Luke and
Star
Leia-
Wars did it twice
was
now.
gonna
Luke
say-
and Leia kissed, and then no one really cares anymore.
yeah, that would be poetically rhyming. If
I guess so. All right, what's called?
Oh,
So
poet.
we've talked about how
what
the
a time.
All right, so we've talked about how the sequels, well, like basically what they got right cinematography wise. But I think one of their main flaws that we can attribute all the other bad things to is that they tried to cram so much information
Into episode 9.
So little
what's
story.
called into the whole trilogy 7 what's called and because there was no clear vision from beginning to the end in the entire thing, we see so many main characters that are just either are involved in so many storylines or are just tossed to the side.
Mhm.
Like for example, Finn, you know, Finn,
That's
Rest in
I had
peace,
my
my
notes
man.
too.
Yeah,
I will
what's
never
called-
forgive the underuse of Finn.
so
He made a good Star Wars Battlefront 2 ad though.
yeah, and so basically
Got that right.
Basically for 7, we see Finn as one of the main characters, and that's kind of the person that we're following. And he wields a lightsaber for most of the film. But for 8 and 9, he's literally just tossed to the side as just this character that like it totally. Even though he was like the main role in
Yeah.
in that. And
Wasn't,
then
didn't everyone think he was going to be the new Jedi?
Yeah.
that was the whole point, right? And then you find out it's
They
Rey.
alluded to that at the end of 9 too. Remember when like they were falling in the sand and he goes, Ray, I need to tell you something. I never told. And then he gets swallowed by the
oh,
sand.
yeah, we never found
Yeah.
found that out.
so that
Yeah,
was
no.
kind of my thing about the original, the love story arc, because me as a basic movie watcher, I do think more towards the side of like the relationship with the characters. And I was definitely like, that's like a classic thing. They set it up so well in 7. Like Ray's like too cool for Finn, and Finn's like kind of dorky, but he really likes Ray. But then like, and then she's supposed to like realize that he's like a cool guy, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, what's called?
I think that's
Because Finn didn't have like because all of a sudden they robbed Finn of the weight of his character. Now all of the 87 love interests that he had, like what's called instantly, his entire character arc becomes meaningless because we don't feel any connection to his character because we see him for a little bit. And, you know, he's wielding a lightsaber. He's this really cool person. And then Kylo Ren tosses him aside and Rey picks up the lightsaber for the rest of the trilogy.
Exactly.
Very soon.
And all of a sudden, Rey is this main character where, if we're being honest, Rey never really got that good at being a Jedi. She kind of sucked for the majority of like she like
the
you know,
trilogy?
the entire trilogy. She never had a moment where Rey, quote unquote, unlocks her potential and suddenly understands herself in the Force and is able to do like this awesome action scene where, okay, also the action scene in 8, that whole last
I was
fight
gonna
scene
say-
was horrible.
Don't you mean when it was? What do you mean? She totally discovered herself when she accidentally killed the Supreme Emperor Snoke.
Oh, God. That and
okay, but we can all agree that the freaking ramming the ship at light speed was the sickest thing.
That
ever.
was
That,
cool.
that is
it
the
was-
best thing
Again,
about episode
these
8.
films have been visually
They have
beautiful.
beautiful
Oh, they're
visual
so good.
effects. I think
But-
all of us agree with that.
Yeah. No, I really agree with you, Cody. I think that what they were trying to do was show something that we don't really get to see much in any of the Star Wars movies. That is actually really heavily focused on in the Legends. Is she was not meant to be a Jedi. She's meant to be a gray Jedi.
Who, Rey?
Yeah.
Okay. for
So
sure.
they actually follow a completely different code. They whereas Jedi's don't allow their emotions to take hold of them. That was Anakin's main flaw. Gray Jedi's are able to use that, but not let it overtake them, not let that passion overtake them as the Sith use. The Sith say like passion leads to strength, which leads to power, which leads to domination. Whereas the Gray Jedi, their entire point is to just channel that into being at equilibrium, at peace.
Is there a more popular example of that for those who aren't?
Isn't
Adam.
Mace Windu?
No, Qui-Gon Jinn.
what's called just talking a little bit more about Rey as a character, because first of all, we obviously there wasn't a whole lot of planning out for her character,
Mm-mm.
but yeah, she was following that gray, I guess, storyline, but she never like what's called she never became a strong character. She always felt like a weak character, but
Yeah.
she was surrounded by so much plot armor that
Yeah.
we always knew she would come out on top. We always knew that she would always be okay because because she was the main character and that had to happen. Not to mention with her being a Palpatine and everything throughout the entire trilogy. The director's always alluding to her being, I guess, like
Connected.
what's called coming a Sith and going with the dark side.
Oh, yeah.
And in episode 9 we even see a Sith version of Rey. But the thing is, the only thing that where Rey ever struggles with that at all is when she shocks when she accidentally uses Force lightning, which it's like, whoa,
That was
was
a
awesome.
dope scene, not gonna lie.
Yeah,
but
that's a sick scene, but the whole weight behind that entire, like the consequence of her accidentally falling to the dark side was that she killed Chewie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so 30 seconds later, we find out
Chewie's
Chewie's
not
alive.
dead,
And
yeah.
so,
They-
and
which
so-
which could have been explored so much. You could have had that weight and like had that character throughout the story, and then you find out Chewie's alive like 20-30 minutes later.
yeah, and
that would have
so,
been so much better.
what's called, and so Rey, all of a sudden, the whole consequence of her fighting with the dark side.
Yeah.
Now, yes, she's fighting for the dark side, but why is that a problem? Because the trilogy, it's constantly alluding to her struggling with the dark side, but there's never actually a real consequence. We think there's one when Chewie supposedly dies, but then that consequence and the weight of her struggling with the dark side is taken away, and now her being a Palpatine doesn't really make sense because because even though she struggled with the dark side this entire time, it never had any weight behind it, and she never actually had to deal with that problem.
Yeah.
Because by the end of the trilogy, we haven't resolved that problem at all, and it was just forgotten about.
That's
Yeah.
my
I think the single best story decision of all the entirety of the sequels was when they said Rey's parents were no one. I
Yeah,
think
I think that was a good
I was
decision.
like, and then the fallback on the save of like, oh, is her grandfather like that? No, that's BS. I think the fact that she was no one made her such an interesting character.
That's true.
Mhm.
I
And-
think-
but now she's just like,
The one
oh, she's
thing
just
that Ryan-
another
that Ryan
character that
Johnson
came
got
from
right.
this
I
lineage.
think that
like,
everybody
ah.
thinks
That's
that
true.
it's so annoying that she is so naturally good at everything, and whether you spark that up to being
yeah,
a Palpatine,
she has so much plot armor.
or
Yeah.
it's like she
mean
is there
midichlorians.
to be, she is there.
Same thing.
Like she never had like Cody said, she never had to deal with the struggle. She never had to deal with anything that relates to her going to the position of a Jedi. She's just naturally good at she does Force lightning. Whoa, crazy! She can do Force lightning with just by getting angry. Now I'm not saying that necessarily is lore because we've never really seen how the Force lightning develops outside of the comics. But I mean, I'm saying that there's so much training and strategy that she needed to learn that just came to her so naturally. It kind of made me upset because I'm like, there is no hero's journey. There is no
She never had a struggle.
she never had a struggle. There was no
trilogy. Yeah.
conflict.
Yeah.
She
But
just was always
did
there.
Did it not come to Luke that easily? I mean, like Luke trained for
Luke trained for an entire
Like
movie.
one montage.
He went through like one montage, but
Ray didn't.
she
Ray
spent the
didn't have a
entire
montage.
movie
Okay,
of
whoa, whoa, whoa,
episode
hold
8
on.
on that island with Luke.
He did an entire montage and then immediately lost the fight he went to though.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that
Yeah.
it's better.
You're
but
right.
Yeah, it's
I'm
that
saying
Luke
that
had struggles.
Yeah,
he-
Luke had the
yeah,
struggle.
Luke had struggles,
and then he
but-
went back, and
but
then
Luke- the thing is,
after
Luke-
the movie
he-
went back to Dagobah,
but
still
he
struggled a
never-
whole bunch, and then struggled even more after that, and almost lost the fight after that.
But then
too.
did Luke even really train her? She kind of just cut a rock. That's all she really did on that island.
Well, did we see all of Luke's training with Yoda?
But she
We
learned
didn't see
to.
every little bit.
I know, but we at least saw Yoda training him. And,
We-
and then he but by the end of episode 7, no, sorry, 6,
will be.
you see significant change in him. Like in the beginning when he's going to Jabba the Hutt, you see that he's completely tapped into energy. Whether or not he's changed more, but there's no reveal of actually what happens. Rey just doesn't have any.
I'd say that there was immense training in milking whatever those fat, ugly.
Can you please stop this? Whatever.
I think
this
I think
is.
we are getting. I think we're only talking about the sequels right now. We haven't really said much about the prequels.
Well,
we should
so the
do that.
prequels. Here's what I'll say. Like I was going back to the original romantic story arc.
Mhm.
It's really hard to talk about the prequels without talking about the Clone Wars because the
Yeah.
story of the Clone Wars
Is weaved so heavily into the prequels.
is
Mhm.
literally the saving grace of Anakin of Anakin.
Yeah.
And so it shows.
I actually really
like
enjoyed Anakin
you
in
talk
episode
about
3.
like the biggest thing that the Clone Wars does for the movie is it helps bring along the storyline of Anakin's descent and just like the issues that he faced. That because Obi-Wan isn't supposed to be his like mentors. It's supposed to be Qui-Gon Jinn. Is supposed to be like more of a father figure for him, but Qui-Gon obviously ends up dying.
Yep.
And so
And then he
Obi-Wan,
says, you train the boy.
Obi-Wan ends up being more like a kind of a
Big
brother.
brother.
Like he
Brother,
just
yep.
yeah. And so
Liam Neeson plays Qui-Gon Jinn, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
What?
Yeah. Yes, he does.
What?
But,
what
So
was
there's that obviously that the Clone Wars brings to it, but I think another significant part is that it makes the whole Anakin and Padme thing not so horrible and painful to watch.
Yeah.
It's just like like because Anakin's like a really respectable like guy in the beginning of the Clone Wars and in the beginning of his like character story, and he's just like sure he's a little bit out there and like he's a little bit like a rule bender and like he's just kind of a free thinker, but like he's not like the Clone Wars kind of shows again his decline and how that like affects their relationship like slowly it slowly becomes farther and farther apart, which I think was really cool and is like way better than any of the storylines that obviously the sequels were able to crank out in that particular like area.
Even without the Clone Wars TV show, I still think episode 3 was fantastic.
Episode 3 is great.
Say
We all know
episode
this.
3.
Say what you
Yeah.
want about like Hayden Christensen's acting in that. I think he actually did really good because
Only in 3 though.
only in 3. Episode 2 was
No, I would say
the
I would say he
dialogue
did
and
pretty
the
well in
acting in that was-
episode 1.
Yeah, the
too.
writing was tough.
That was not
Hayden
The
Christensen
right,
was
okay.
Wait,
The sequels
what?
definitely had better dialogue.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
Se-
by far.
sequels, we can all agree, had much
I was
better
joking, guys.
dialogue. It's
Yeah.
just the fact that
The
what the
overall-
dialogue was talking about was bad.
Yeah, the overall storyline of the sequels was far worse than the storyline of the prequels.
Mhm.
But the prequel scripting and dialogue was just absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, what's called for the
It was-
purpose of a smooth transition. Sorry, I totally cut you off, but I think
Smooth.
I think how Rey had so much plot armor. I absolutely love how in the prequels, absolutely nobody
has
had
any plot armor.
because
There's people dying
what's called,
everywhere.
every single movie, like well, almost what's called so pretty much almost every single movie, the main character and the
dies.
main villain both die.
Yeah.
And so what's called
Darth
so
Maul,
all
slice
yeah,
Qui-Gon Jinn.
yeah, what's called Qui-Gon's dead, Darth Maul is dead, and just like all of these main characters in the prequels. And obviously Darth Maul isn't dead, but what's called
Well, watch the Clone Wars.
I don't
watch
think
the
he ever
Clone Wars.
returns
watch
in
the
the main
Clone Wars,
series.
what's called, but in each of the movies, all of these main puzzle pieces in all of the movies, they all get killed off one after the other because they have zero plot armor and because they have to because they don't appear in the sequels and because that's what makes sense in the story. And so because of that, these like the characters who struggled, they just died, which was kind of awesome because it actually showed that there
are consequences.
What's called there are consequences. and
Life
it-
isn't fair.
yeah, and it got rid of the trope that the main characters always
Win.
get everything handed to them
Yeah.
as
It's like,
what's called, which is what we saw with Rey as she just got.
Yeah,
It's
you
like-
get handed
it's
It's like
things.
Barb in Stranger Things. And I know it's kind of but like the whole point, the Duffer Brothers kind of revealed that the whole point of Barb as a character was to point out that life isn't fair. Sometimes stuff is not
yeah.
going to happen and it's not going to make any sense.
Mhm.
It's not going to, it's not going to have any consequence to the rest of people's lives, but it isn't fair. It's going to suck.
That was like episode 2 or 3, huh?
It was
Or
3,
4.
I'm pretty sure.
That was
Episode 3
It was,
was-
It
that
was
was
4
3.
when episode 4 starts off with her in the Upside Down.
Yeah.
No,
and
I thought
that's just-
episode 4 starts out with her. This is besides the point. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into what actually
She
happened.
dies
yeah,
at the
she
end of
gets, like,
episode
snatched.
2. It's in the beginning of episode 3 that she's.
And then isn't like
that they show
doesn't-
her with all like the
yeah, like
stuff and stuff.
coming out of her
Mhm.
mouth and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I think again it's a huge issue because of the whole trade-offs between who was writing what, who's directing what, and they weren't able to get a solid
Yeah.
story down. George Lucas was able to get a solid story down for the prequels because it was all in his head. It was
Yeah.
all his creation.
I
Well, yeah,
absolutely
there's
think
one
if
creative
one
vision.
person directed the sequel trilogies, it would be far better. Than
I
the
think
prequels.
I agree.
if J.J. Abrams had just been like,
Yeah.
"Hi, I'm gonna hold on to this," then yeah. Which I mean, it is his sort of on him for saying, "Hey, I want more money." But I mean, you're sort of allowed to do that. It's Disney. They can pay basically whatever you asked
Yeah, I
for.
mean, like as much as
I asked for $20 billion.
I mean,
pay me as a director,
as much
please.
as much as I like Star Wars, I do like money. And I think
As much as I like Star Wars, I like money more.
I think that J.J. Abrams might be on the same page with me on that.
Was he a Trekkie? Whoa, was
He
he?
directed Star Trek movies.
Yeah, he did.
Mhm.
What's like the Star Wars like fandom name? Like there's Trekkies.
Star Wars fans.
Yeah, we're just Star Wars fans.
okay.
I'd say Star Wars fans.
Star
Yeah.
Warians. Star Wars.
Don't ever say that again.
Yeah, it was called. If J.J. Abrams had directed all of it, then all
think
of
it'd
the
be much
character
better.
development would actually have weight and actually come to like not having static characters.
It's like the
and
Harry
then,
Potter movies.
and then episode 9 would have such a better way of wrapping up the entire trilogy, because just the conclusion felt so out of place. Like there was so many things that they put into that trilogy and then had to kind of give like answers that really didn't have a lot of thought put into it, because they had to wrap it up somehow, because 8 went a completely different vision than 7 was going, and so 9 had to then somehow come up with a new explanation for
Yeah,
how those
tie all
two
the-
tried to relate to each other,
Yeah, tied the ends together.
and it didn't work out for them.
I have another question.
Okay.
So another topic
Ask it, my dad.
They're only 5 years apart. Gosh.
of comparison. Yeah. Are you an angel?
Oh, are you an angel?
when you fell from heaven, did it hurt?
Being
So
middle school
I think
pickup lines.
what I think of
if you were a booger, I'd
is kind of a unique perspective. Hopefully, not to pat myself in the back. But
You want a sticker?
yeah, I do want to stick.
How about a gold star?
Get out of this room right now. Don't come back till you find me a sticker. Okay, so I think of and correct me if I'm wrong.
You are.
The scene, we just cut this out if I'm totally wrong.
I'm not
the
going
scene
to,
with the
so.
3 like beasts, like the praying mantis. Is that in the original? Is that in the prequels?
That's episode 2. I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
Okay,
In the
okay.
arena.
And like the
Yeah,
giant
the arena.
arena.
Okay, so my question stands then. Is are the non-human characters or / non-human creatures like of the Star Wars universe better portrayed in the prequels, or are they better portrayed in the sequels? Because I can't think of a lot of instances apart from the epic,
By the way,
epic scene where we
I've
get
hit that camera so many times. I've turned on and off this camera so many times.
Yeah,
Their
I
camera
don't-
keeps
I don't-
dying.
Can
I
you-
think the prequels was a lot better. I think you should keep
Wait,
elaborating
finish
on
your
your
Can
question.
you
Yeah,
please
I was just
repeat
gonna,
your
so
question?
yeah. So the question overall is the non-human creatures better in the prequels or better in the sequels?
Now, by that, do you mean like non-human creatures in general, or do you mean the humanoid aliens?
so
creatures?
the non-humanoid,
Okay, so more like the
creatures.
beastly kind of.
yeah,
things.
the beastly, the
Honestly,
beastly
I think the
creatures.
prequels does both better.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that can also be a fault in the sense where they tried to use too much CGI. But the thing is, that entire universe was filled with characters that weren't humans with makeup on them.
Well,
Mhm.
we talk about CGI. Okay,
Mhm.
every 2000s movie had an exorbitant amount of CGI because it was such a new technology, and
Well,
like everyone's
for-
like, "Let's blow our money on the CGI."
For the
Except for some
prequels,
of them did it really
Jar
well.
Jar. So Jar Jar
well,
Binks.
yes, but like think about a space movie. You have so much of it.
I know I just said Jar Jar Binks. Now people are looking at me. Jar Jar Binks. Regardless of how bad of
mean
a
the Sith
character you
Lord?
think he is, yeah, the Sith Lord Jar Jar.
Misa want the cookie. Misa want the cookie.
Mason, don't ever say that again. Despite like what kind of a character he was, that was like one of the very first times that visually you had an actor stand there for a character, for a completely CGI character.
Like motion capture.
Yeah, well, it
For
wasn't
sure.
necessarily motion capture.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
motion capture.
And so-
it was one of the first instances that we saw of that. And so,
So it did have innovation in that area where it was like one of the very first movies they really ever do that. Now, the kind of character he is a completely different topic, but the movie did innovate visually and with the technology it was using.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think that Star Wars, we give Star Wars a lot of crap. I think all of us do.
I agree.
Like everyone in the fandom, like even
No
the
one
original,
hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, absolutely.
even the original trilogy, we give Star Wars some crap for. And we were obviously making fun of the whole like Luke Leia thing. It's
Those
weird.
who want to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
What do you mean? Who does? Never
But like,
mind.
but
Just
like,
kidding. I was gonna say who doesn't want to kiss their sister, but
Oh no, okay.
I decided.
We give everything a lot of crap, but I mean, Star Wars. When you think about it, it advanced just everything overall. Like even the sequels have
Facts.
advanced cinematography and have advanced motion capture effects, have advanced things so drastically.
I wouldn't really
As
agree
a-
with that.
You wouldn't.
I would
I
not
would agree
agree
with
with
that.
that.
The prequels,
at
not the
all.
sequels.
And what's called? I think that and so actually I have it in my notes. The original trilogy pioneered so much technology, and the prequels did as well. And so in this conversation of the prequels or sequels, what's called? The prequels innovated so much when it comes to film and CGI and practical effects and well, not necessarily practical effects, but just visual effects and cinematography. And the sequels were just kind of a carbon copy of other action
They were
movies.
very safe.
What's
They were very
safe.
safe with everything, and they didn't pioneer any new technologies. Where the other two trilogies absolutely were some of the first instances that we've seen new film technology and new effect technology being put into use. But
Yeah, I think.
But we got Ben
ob-
Swallow.
Obviously, you have the modern cinematography where, like, obviously those very cinematic, like Lord of the Rings esque, Marvel esque shots where you have these big. You see, especially in Episode 9, are obviously
in
there,
slow motion.
and those are obviously always cool and everything. But especially with the characters. There was nothing a lot tried there. Like you can even go back to the original Yeti scene. From the I guess that's from
Episode 5.
That's from Episode 5.
Yep.
So never mind about that. But like you know, even in the you can include the originals too. In this even in when they had a time where they're obviously the technology was way worse. They were still able to create these larger than life characters. Obviously, the Colosseum scene is awesome with
Absolutely.
the beasts and everything.
it's glorious. Beyond
It's
this.
like really suspenseful, and like I said, even though it's in the originals, you have Yeti. The Yeti, Jabba the Hutt is obviously awesome.
He's CG in the new version of Episode 4, though.
Yeah,
Oh,
that looked a
also
little weird.
Han
Yeah, it
shot.
was tough.
Sorry, Han shot first.
yeah. Greedo is an amazing like character. It's just like visually,
Wasn't
so-
Greedo a costume? Right.
Yeah.
probably.
He was,
So
okay.
you have
Yeah.
all these
It's
unique.
1977. They didn't
They had
have
CG.
know what to do with the computer.
Yeah,
A computer was literally just like green text on a screen.
yeah.
Pretty sure
Yeah,
they didn't
war-
have
it
the
was like
color
a
green yet.
it was like war games up in there, bro. All the characters were still able to be amazing characters and capture the story really well, even without the technology. Whereas in the sequels, even though they have the really good technology, I don't know. I'm struggling to think of a
they were
non-human
very
character.
safe.
The ice wolves.
Oh,
will
those were
say
yeah.
Those were
Those
cool.
were cool.
Those were dope.
awesome.
Yeah. No, one of the things that you really just have to remember between the sequels or actually between even the original trilogy and the prequels was once the Empire was founded, they suppressed every other culture. They only wanted their
It's an
culture.
allegory for the Nazis.
Yeah, but in the prequels and stuff, you see the Gungan culture, you see the Geonosian
That's
culture,
true.
you see all these other cultures. You're getting to look into how these different cultures throughout
And
space,
societies worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they were all like suppressed and wiped away as soon as the Empire rose, and even during the era of the First Order, you don't get to see those as much because the humans were sort of what the Aryan race was in World War II. They were the people who were allowed to freely go about their
And
way
express
to
themselves,
express themselves, to do whatever.
Well, because it
whatever
was
they wanted.
perceived to be correct,
Yeah,
which is
Which is
the
why you-
terrible thing.
get most of your aliens on the
Rebellion.
rebellion or the resistance
Yeah.
side, and I think that's why we don't see things like large groups of Gungans in the sequels,
In the sequels,
or
yeah.
the original
They
trilogy.
were all suppressed
Or
because
we
the
see-
Empire had believed that like the humans were like the
Yeah,
best
or
race
they
of all
were
of them.
forced to be mixed with all the other ones.
Yeah.
like
Or we
Mos
see
Eisley
people like living
Spaceport.
in the trees because the ground is too safe. The ground is too unsafe.
Yeah, freaking love Ewoks.
Ewoks are great.
Ewoks are great. But again, we don't really get like of what I can remember. We don't really get any of those throughout any of the sequels because
Roger.
you don't have the freedoms that they had in their universe.
Yeah.
By that point,
Mhm.
That's
everything
true.
had
I
just
would
been
agree.
so beaten down after not one not 2, but 3 consecutive wars.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
You have the
Yeah.
Clone Wars, you have the Galactic Civil War, and then you have the war between the Resistance
and Order 66.
the First Order.
Yeah.
And after all that, I mean, why would you come out of your hole if everybody else is telling you to stay down?
That's,
Well, yeah.
And
well,
that's you only get this large of group of aliens, and they decided to join the Resistance.
it brings
join
up
the
a
rebellion.
conversation about like personal freedoms. Like,
Yeah.
if you are given this much space by someone to do something, and you as a person cannot function because of it, how are you going to react? How are you going to respond?
Mhm.
Naturally,
You're gonna become a tiny guy who speaks all languages and can make your C-3PO speak the dark side of the Force.
Yes.
And you're gonna-
He is the
C-3PO
greatest.
Sith.
He is the
Okay,
greatest
hold on,
thing
real
about
quick,
episode
real quick.
9.
what a man.
So apparently 9-year-old kid Anakin programmed Sith speak into C-3PO and then locked it. Because that's the only way C-3PO. That was the only programming that we know
before,
of at least.
I
that
before
have-
he even
C-3PO got.
knew what
I
the
have
Sith
never
were.
thought that.
Except for he,
He's like, we're chilling.
it
dude.
could have been during the time when he was under Bail Organa and when Bail Organa had his memory wiped. And
Oh, you.
that
Well,
he-
that's just his memory, not like all of his base
Also-
but
programming.
who's to say that he didn't do other things?
Mind if I cut in? Hey guys, it's Mason coming at you from the editing booth. If y'all like 2-part series, well, you're in luck, because this is exactly what this is. Come back next week for episode 2 of our Star Wars sequels, better, worse than the prequels. We decided to cut them into 45 minutes just because it was easier for us to edit and produce and easier for y'all to consume. Also, we get more content. So come back next week, please. I beg you. If you like what you saw here, consider subscribing on YouTube, following on any podcasting apps such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud. We're on all cross platforms. So if y'all want to listen on any other platform, go do that. If you want to give us a suggestion as to what we should do next in terms of topic, email us or leave a comment down below. You can email us at pophypepodcast@gmail.com. That's all lowercase. And as always, I am Mason Bell, and I am signing off for Cade McRitchie, Bryson McGowan, JT and Cody Wright. And as always, stay friggin' pop hyped.